Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. For the first week since the regular season ended, we did not get a head coach fired in the NFL. We also didn't get any new coaches hired, which means 8 teams still have vacancies at the top. But we do have 3 GM openings, as the New York Giants have scratched that off of their list. Remaining GM openings in Minnesota, Chicago, and Las Vegas. Jonathan Jones taking the time to rank the openings in his latest Insider Notebook over on CBSSports.com. The Vikings, the most attractive situation, then Chicago, Miami, Denver, and Las Vegas. The Jaguars were seen as a golden spot to land a year ago. I mean, number 1 pick, good pieces, money to spend. But a year later, second from bottom, just above the Houston Texans. Okay, for more on the whys and the whos when it all comes to those vacancies, let's now welcome in the author, senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones. JJ, the Vikings have interviewed 5 potential candidates for their head coaching jobs so far, with 3 more to come. They've interviewed 7 candidates for the GM position. Why is this such an attractive job to you?
It's an attractive job because they have a quarterback, first of all. And in my rankings very much take into account whether the team has a quarterback or not, and they do in Kirk Cousins. You may not love Kirk Cousins, you may not love him at his salary, but he is a quarterback that has proven he can get you to the postseason, even win you a postseason game. They have a top 5 running back in Dalvin Cook, a guy who, even when he's banged up, and he has been banged up the past 2 years, he can play through it and still be an effective runner. They have built the offensive line in a quality way, thanks to Rick Spielman, the former general manager. The defense has been lacking, and they were not able to fill the gaps on the pass rush, and maybe they got a little gray in the hair in the back end with a couple of misses back there as well. But all in all, this is a quality roster for a team that, of course, is without a general manager and head coach. When you're in those situations, you normally don't have that great of an opportunity. I believe that the Vikings are a sterling opportunity here. And then you mentioned, of course, you have to look at ownership. And the Wilfs are a patient group. They seem to allow the football people to do what they need to do in terms of the on-field product. And so you have a patient and non-meddlesome ownership group. You have quality pieces that you don't have to go out and search for on this team. And you were in a division that very well may be without Aaron Rodgers in a couple of months from now. I think it's the top job.
Oh, you're stirring the pot there with the Aaron Rodgers stuff. But yes, certainly the Vikings in a good position with ownership and, of course, the pieces. We've been hearing, speaking of, openings, Jim Harbaugh could be a candidate for the Raiders job. But Rich Bisaccia, they're continuing to evaluate Rich Bisaccia, but what other names are being floated when it comes to potentially filling that vacancy with the Raiders?
Yeah, Harbaugh is the name that is certainly a cloud. And that may not be a fair way to put it, but the specter of Harbaugh hangs over Allegiant Stadium and over this Raiders organization. They are all aware that Harbaugh could be the guy. But when it comes to the Vegas Raiders, one name that I have been told to be on the lookout for, Josh McDaniels, the Patriots offensive coordinator. And we know, of course, that he had a failed stint with the Denver Broncos. He became the Colts head coach a couple of years ago, and then a couple hours later said, you know what, I'm not going to be the Colts head coach, and left them at the altar. The Colts are fine with that. They have Frank Reich, and they're very happy with Frank Reich, of course. But watch for Josh McDaniels, especially now that GM Mike Mayock is out of the building, and they may bring on a general manager with New England ties. They are interviewing a couple of those. Look out for Josh McDaniels. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but as much as folks are talking about Harbaugh, I think that we need to be on the lookout for one of the best offensive coordinators in football leaving the nest finally, again, from New England and heading to Vegas.
In Dallas, let's talk about the head coach, Mike McCarthy. He continues to defend the play call that ended their season in embarrassing fashion last weekend. And Jerry Jones was on radio this morning, and I just want to read you part of the quote that was put up here. He says, in regards to sort of play calling, he said, I don't want to wait until we're sitting here with no season left to address the things we're doing or not doing. All of that is in the mix here and a part of what I want to do. That's the way I do it. As you know, the ultimate decision in these coaches is one that I have to make. So that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement of head coach Mike McCarthy or his coaching staff, JJ.
No, No, it's not. If you're Mike McCarthy and you hear that, unless you have some behind closed doors, absolute sort of guarantee that you're back in 2022, you don't feel great right now. And it's unknown at this point whether Mike McCarthy has that guarantee or not. But hearing from Jerry Jones, it sounds a little bit more tenuous than maybe it did earlier in the week when Stephen Jones said there's no doubt that he's back. And Mike McCarthy goes up there and has a very long press conference, again, defending the play call that was wrong at the end of the game, the quarterback draw with 14 seconds left. It was wrong. It will always be wrong. It will never be right. But here you have Mike McCarthy, who, if he ultimately is relieved of his duties, you have to imagine they would elevate Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, who has issues of his own, who had a role in that bad play call. And Jerry Jones continued on and on with a number of issues where he talked about the offense. He talked about issues with Amari Cooper. And so that also falls on Kellen Moore. He can't be the boy genius and get credit for the successes and no credit for the failures, none of the blame for the failures. So that has to be figured out there in Dallas. Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator, maybe he would be a candidate there, but he's a candidate seemingly everywhere around the NFL. So we're going to continue to monitor what's happening there in Big D with Mike McCarthy. But yeah, if you thought that he was definitely safe based off of Cowboys executive quotes earlier in the week, and then you hear Jerry Jones today, certainly you feel a little less safe for old Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, you just wonder. I mean, I don't think the media is going to let it go until he admits that he did something wrong there, but we'll see how it all plays out. He is senior NFL insider Jonathan Jones discussing the latest insider column, which you can read over on CBSSports.com. Thanks, JJ. Our coverage of the divisional games continues Saturday and Sunday. We have the AFC games for you, starting with the Bengals at the Titans at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The return of Derrick Henry. Looks like they're going to bring him back off IR, and he is set to start on Saturday versus the Bengals. Then Sunday, Bills and Chiefs, a rematch of last season's AFC title game. That one kicking off at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Both games being streamed on Paramount+.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.